Hey there, YouTube yogis. I want to take a minute before I practice to discuss a little bit about everything with a mind has the ability to have amazing experiences. And if you have an imagination, then your imagination can approximate reality really closely. And what does that mean? Well, it means that you can cast a vision so strong that eventually it happens. I see myself going through school, going to college, getting a house, getting a wife or husband or whatever, children, all of that stuff, right? We have this idea of how to be as the center of American life. And that's all fine and good. And then we have the rest of America that lives differently than that. We imagine that the only way that we can get through life is the way that we choose to get through life. I have been struggling with depression. I have struggled with attention deficit disorder. Not diagnosed. I just mean, like, since I was a child, I had a problem understanding the world. And so I would create worlds that I did understand. And most of the time those worlds were beautiful places. And sometimes those worlds were nightmares. Sometimes if you are not careful with how you tend the garden of your mind, sculpt it to be a place of safety, and by creating a collaborative experience of the world with those around you. You can find yourself going down strange paths. You can find yourself suffering needlessly by creating suffering for yourself. You can take on ideas that the world throws at you so strongly that you can become captured by these things. If you've ever read a good book and felt so pulled into the story that you start using their words on the words of the characters in daily life. Or you are so rigid in your understanding of the world that you can't possibly open up to the fullness. Right? Both of those are absorptions into overly identifying with things. We can have thoughts, that float into our head, and, a thought is not who I am. A thought does not require me to do something. It's a thought, right? So you have to interrogate thoughts. You have to interrogate your world. The idea that somehow the world owes you grace, when that's not what the world is about. Grace comes from a different place than the world. And sometimes we can exhaust everybody's grace in our lives because we become enamored with ideas that capture our attention and prevent us from seeing the world as it is and behaving in a way that allows us to bring the world to be the place you want to live in. In yoga, there's the idea of the kleshas. They're kind of like the 7 deadly sins, in Catholicism, biblically speaking. But it's whenever you take something that does not deserve a level of worship and you put it in place. False idols, right? And when false idols take the place of the truth and of the world that you need to tend, the garden of your mind, and the relationships that surround you, it becomes the thing that you love becomes destructive, right? We are called to be in relationship with each other because that is the nature of our humanity. But sometimes we just need to go be alone to process things. Both states are true. You can be social and antisocial. You can be an introvert that has to function in the world. You can be an extrovert that needs time to go charge batteries. Like I'm an intentional extrovert. My natural state is to just be whatever it is that I'm in the moment of. I'd rather just go home and sleep or sit on the couch and watch TV and let the world come to me, But I realized very young that that wasn't good for me. My body hurt from not being used. My mind was so full of other people's ideas that I didn't have room for who I am. So in my philosophy, breathe your own breath. In other words, I can't make your lungs work for you. So work your lungs. I can't feed you like you're a baby anymore. Number one, you would probably reject it because it's not great, but if you are willing to let me feed you, you should feed yourself on some level. There's a level of maturity that has to come in life. And maturity has nothing to do with not having play or anything else. Maturity has to do with taking responsibility for the things that you choose to do and being present for that deal. You can't get angry if someone has worked hard and achieved something. You can't even get angry if they just happen to be born into a situation where they have if you want to believe the idea that there's a status and a climb, and they got, maybe they're halfway up the ladder already, and you're someone that has to build from the bottom, right? And so you're frustrated you don't get to go as high as they do. But every person has their struggles. Every person has to learn how to behave in the world. And if you find a successful strategy that meets your needs, then sometimes that tells you, you found your place. And sometimes being that comfortable, even though it's available to you, is not what is the greater good for us. Right? Feeling good and the greater good for our entity are two different things. And you have to have balance. Why do you have to have balance? Well, you don't. You don't have to have balance if you want to fall down all the time. You don't have to have balance if you want to prevent yourself from falling and breaking a hip. You don't have to have balance if you aren't going to miss all the things that you could bring into your life, but you have an obsession for one thing in your life. I don't care what the obsession is. It could be your spouse, children, it could be video games, it could be other things. Certainly raising children requires a lot of focus, right? But if you only give to your children and that's your reason for everything, and then you also get upset because you're giving everything to the children and you're getting nothing back, right? Then you start to create a resentment towards them. So if you're not a person that is fed by just caretaking, then you need to balance caretaking with self-care. Do things for them and for you. That way, when you are there for them, you're fully there for them because you got your time. But you also can't be so focused on your time that you can't be available for them when you need to be, because they're your responsibility, right? And I'm not talking about neglect. I'm talking about understanding the relationship of why the wheels fall off the bus for you. Sometimes the wheels fall off the bus because there's mass layoffs in the federal government and you're a federal employee that thought you had a job that was secure, had good benefits, didn't pay as much as the outside world, but it gave you stability and a retirement and a bunch of things that most civilians don't have. But now you were sold a promise, an idea, but your life is happening out here, right? That's an outside force that is creating turmoil in your life. An inside force is one where you suffer self-inflicted wounds. You go party too much, and there's bad things that happen because of that. Either you're in a situation where you're not giving consent because you are intoxicated, or you're not able to receive consent because you're intoxicated. That doesn't mean that you're not responsible for your behavior. The consequences of your behavior show up no matter what. Unless you're in a different ladder rung. But in those situations, there is a different justice structure. What is the best thing about responsibility, though? Breathing your own breath, taking responsibility for yourself. Well, it means that you are empowered in every situation. Well, I chose to volunteer today, so I'm going to give it 110%. And if I don't like it, I won't volunteer again. But I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be upset that things aren't unfolding the way I want them to. I chose to participate. Sometimes the best choice for other people is for you not to participate. If you're going to do the negative things that I listed out instead of the positive things I listed out. What about obligation? Well, obligation is when you do something you don't want to do because it's good for connection. And then there's when people obligate you for things that you're not obligated to. Everything cuts two ways. Like, I don't think there is such a thing as an absolute interpretation of certain things. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today. But when you breathe your own breath and you take responsibility for yourself, then when you put yourself in a situation that things are out of control, you can look back and go, okay, I'm 10 steps deep into this and I don't want to be here. I can choose to walk out sometimes. Sometimes you're in a situation you just gotta push through. The obstacle is the way, as they say. Sometimes life is always about context and awareness. The choices you make and the reasons you do things are based on context and awareness. So if you're aware of your context, you can make appropriate choices or inappropriate choices, whichever serve your needs. Is it right to lie to someone? Or keep secrets from people? Depends on the lie and the secrets. And who and what, right? How do you protect family? Try not to know their secrets. Or maybe you need to know their secrets. Again, everything is about context and awareness. I have a hard time sometimes being aware of the world outside me. I'm so internal. I have to work really hard to do battle with the evil within me, right? Like, I can rage against other people and what they're doing, but in the end, that's me trying to force something on people that I don't know if that's what I have to be really sure that this is the right thing in the right time. Practicing awareness. You know, those of us that have served as first responders or in the military, you know, a lot of our behaviors that some call toxic are valuable in our situation, our context. But that doesn't mean that we give them license to run all the time. It's not healthy for us to give into our natural tendencies too much. You know, I love food. I love tasting food. I love consuming food. I enjoy feeling full. Like, with a hard, firm belly, like knowing I did some damage to myself because I'm so full. But if I'm like that all the time, then I put on weight. Like I'm coming off the holidays and I'm working off my life of inflammation. I don't regret it. I enjoyed every calorie and every cookie. And that's another point to make, is that the past is past. Now is the moment for you to make changes, because now is the moment you live in. And the future is unwritten. But it is written in the moment. So everything I do right now is working towards whatever future I arrive at, whatever consequences that are in store for me, both positive and negative. A consequence just means an outcome from an action. Does not mean a negative thing. So I can have positive consequences, like get straight A's because I don't watch TV and I don't spend time with my friends. And there's also a negative consequence. I don't have many friends and I don't know what's on TV. So I can grind myself down for a goal, for an achievement, and still miss the point of the journey. I can be so enamored with the journey that I never find achievement. But the one thing I have found, even kindness can be overdone. Kindness without balance. Naivety or guile. Naivety is a beautiful thing. To be new in the world enough that you aren't jaded or operating under guile. What a beautiful thing, and how that should be protected. However, guile exists as a predator on naivety. I used to be very naive when I was young, gullible even. I would fall for every joke. People loved me for that. I would do things that I wasn't super interested in because I didn't know what I was interested in. Because I didn't demand much of myself in those situations. Mostly because I'd been taught that I was entitled as a child. I wanted attention. I wanted to matter in people's lives, and I would babble and run around and get in adult business. I was mostly raised around adults. It's strange how we move through. You start out naive, and then you learn something. You can dive into cynicism, and it's a long climb out of cynicism. Everything starts to look like a game once you give into it. But the key is to both be aware and kind. In game theory, there's the idea of tit for tat. Like, as long as you're kind to me, I'll continue being kind to you. But the moment that you show me unkindness, then I stop my kindness. If you show me kindness again, then I may trust you and start showing you kindness, but then the second time you violate my kindness without reciprocation, now you're teaching me something. It's up to me to learn that lesson. Forgiveness is a beautiful thing. But forgiveness is not a license for other people to destroy you. And it's not a license for you to destroy other people in the sake of your anger. It's what I mean about doing battle with the evil within. There are desires and ideas and thoughts that flow through my mind, and I have to do battle with them. I have to be aware and attentive to what my behavior is generating. Sometimes I'm not aware. Sometimes people make me aware of things, and I have a hard time believing them. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but it does mean that I need to be very I need to do a better job of reading the room, right? Of understanding my context and being aware. You know, having an infinite parent where everything is handled for you because you have to be fixed is debilitating on some levels. But some of us are just not capable of having that level of responsibility for ourselves. Like, some of us don't course correct. Some of us are so enamored with the world that we are creating for ourselves. The world of what we think we have to respond to. That we find ourselves in scary places. And, you know, where does that come from? Who's responsible for that? Let's get mad at God. God, you made this world. You made us damaged people. You made all the animals. You know, your existence is a crime against us because of suffering. Possibly. I guess it just all depends on what is the lesson that you're here to learn. What is the thing that I am here to find joy in, to find responsibility in, to find love in. And, you know, like, let's say you're born with a child with a mental disability and you're going to have to live a long, long time. Like, they may outlive you even and suffer the limitations that they're born with. But that's true of all of us. The sense of scale is different, right? But, you know, I have struggles. And I have many things that are working for me in this world. You know, I need to be aware of who I am. But what I do with who I am shouldn't matter, right? Like, I'm not given things. I mean, I am. But I also have to take responsibility for those things, right? The more you take responsibility for, the more you own, right? And I don't mean that like, the more ownership you take in a situation, the more you care. There's a cost to that. And the more you have demands more of you. The less you have demands a different set of things for you. I'm not sure if this wandering talk is working, but let me come down to, I appreciate your patience. Breathe your own breath, and taking responsibility for yourself is an empowering situation. It says, though I am here, I can choose to find a there. I have to create a list of things I will let go of, things I need to hold on to, things that I will, I know I will regret. Regret's a terrible thing. It traps you. And I have to know the things that I will not regret. That do bring me no weight. They only bring me lightness. And And I don't care if you are someone who, like myself, is neurodivergent and have a hard time understanding the world. It's your task to learn. And yes, we can make accommodations for people, and many accommodations have been made for me, and a lot haven't. And sometimes shit just takes effort. I can control my effort and my attitude, to quote the Warrior Path and Ethos. If I want more love, I have to give more love. If I want grace, I have to give grace. Because if all I ever do is take grace, I'm a glutton. I have to ask myself, why do I need so much grace? And how long am I going to keep taking it from people? They need stuff too. If I receive a gift, I should give a gift. Now, the nature of the gifts I give might be different than the nature of the gifts other people give. And what you have to find is someone who appreciates the gifts you give, and that you appreciate the gifts you receive from them. You've got blood relations, and then you've got built families. Most of the time, we build families because our blood relations fail us. Or we've failed our blood relations so much, we have to go find the correct people group for us to function. Sometimes we feel a sense of brokenness. And I've often said that it's not, you're just a puzzle piece looking for your place. You're looking for your clique. And the things that are being taken from you, that you're leaving behind, are things that are being removed for your benefit. I'm not excusing like theft or that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the things that fall away from your life normally aren't things that are serving you very well. It's difficult to be someone who wants to be aware and to do battle with your own nature. There are some parts of your nature that maybe don't need to be changed. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about resisting the idea of being kind or showing compassion, of trying to achieve understanding. What I'm saying is that sometimes we need, when I start cocooning, I can't cocoon for a long time. I know that there's no floor to the level of cocooning I can do. And I shouldn't be feeding off of other people's efforts. I'm speaking from, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. I'm using this in my life right now. I am reaping the consequences of not being the contributor that my partner wants right now. We aren't good partners. And so I need to decide if I want that partner. Or do I want to take responsibility for myself to return to being something that partner wants? there's no right or wrong answer here. You know, like on YouTube, there's all kinds of things that will diagnose you, that will tell you why you do things the way you do, the analysis of things. It does, all that stuff is, oh God, it's overwhelming. Am I a narcissist? Am I a avoidant? Am I ADHD? Am I schizoaffective? Am I, you know, like all these questions that we ask. But it doesn't matter unless you're probably looking for those things because you're trying to understand like why your world isn't working the way you expect it should. And the more that you tend your mind and tend your body, like bring a discipline to your life. Discipline is not punishment. Punishment is just destroying things. Punishment is about demonstration of power. Discipline is internal power to the self. Yeah. Like I don't punish myself because I ate too much yesterday. Instead, what I'm doing, you know, I try and fuel for the workload that I'm engaged in. Because what happens is when I'm doing a lot, I don't eat as much as I should, so I lose weight, right? And when I am doing nothing and I'm feasting, well, then, you know, that energy that I normally burn is not as energized. So things speed up or slow down, right? Your metabolism. Eventually, your body listens to the style of life that you're living and adapts to it. Your body adapts to sitting. Your body too much. You know, it changes the way your thigh muscles are organized, the strength of them, because they're the strength of your body just adapts to whatever your situation is. So if you're demanding a lot from your body adapts to that. Now, when you are constantly going to your 100% maximum, you get injuries. Or normally what happens is you've gone to your maximum, let your foot off the gas, and think that you can start out at maximum, and then an injury happens. But if you're consistent, right, and you understand when you're gonna, you are careful about peaking, then you can mostly avoid injury. Because I'm not talking about performance. Performance is where injury zones happen, right? Because performance is about maximizing everything for that moment. Like, because you don't get that now back later. But I'm talking about just discipline training. If I train every day, if I do something physical with my body and I find joy in it, doesn't mean that it is enjoyable all the time. It just means like I can find something to enjoy about it. And when it becomes unfun, then probably that means I've been pushing too hard and having expectations that aren't fair for me. So then I need to change tactics. That's about fitness though. Inside, I am a soda-riddled video game playing fantasy book, like I enjoy kind of just absorbing that energy, but it doesn't make me happy in the long run. I enjoy it, but I end up missing other things. So that's what I mean about trying to do balance, right? Like there's good things over here and being alone and entertaining yourself and stuff like that. But eventually you have to come back to You have to have a fuller understanding of who you are. You are not just one thing. You are not an act. You are the totality of who you have been and will be. If you don't like the story that is your story, change chapters and tell it differently. I'm speaking from my own practice, right? Like I'm saying you, but really what I am talking about is I. And I think healing is also a choice. It's a responsibility. Being okay with thinking whatever it is you think, but behave as you want to behave. You don't own the thought. There's no material. The only way a thought becomes damaging in the world is that you concentrate on it, and then you give it license to take over your behavior and your actions, and then you start running down hills and up hills, and you know what I'm saying? Some thoughts, maybe you should run with, become consumed by, but understand that there's going to be a cost somewhere else. That's what life's balance is. If I'm this, then there's something along here that I'm going to be not able to be aware of, because I'm focused going that way. I'm going to use a quick analogy, and then I'll wrap this up. I went through the Warrior Path program with Big Red Barn Retreat in Columbia, South Carolina, Blytheville, really. And we had an exercise with a horse. Not riding a horse, the job is to lead the horse. Get it to follow you. Because horses understand energy. People. They read us because they're used to being in herds, right? So the herd moves at great speed together, and so, but they're always paying attention to each other, and they're always looking for threats, you know. So they feed off your energy. So you have to introduce yourself, give them the attention that they need, and then when you're ready, you follow. Some of us have a hard time with it. Well, one exercise is we discuss, like, how do we get through the world? You know, do I have to accept the obstacle? So I got in. I kind of want to go, right? That's just my nature. Sometimes I work hard to go slow and pull and bring people along or whatever, but in this one case, the job was to put these wooden panels down, and you couldn't touch the ground. The floor is lava, kind of a deal. And the instructors were allowed to take your planks away if you didn't have your hand on it. If you couldn't touch it, it's not yours anymore. If you're not standing on it and you're not touching it, it's not yours. And so and your teammate, you had to hold on to it so that they could get there, right? So they had to stay on theirs, and you know, you form this chain of people that are depending on you for forward momentum. And you're depending on them for making sure those that are behind you are able to follow. And so when I concentrated on the task I had, and the person immediately behind me, I got to the goal, the end line, and I turn around and I see them guiding this horse at the same time. And they're struggling. Horse plank stand shit, you know. So what I did is I reached back, I took the horse's lead, and the horse followed me out to the exterior, and my team got through. That's what I'm talking about, balance. If I'm going far, if I'm leading the pack, if I am the vision caster that sees where we need to go, and I am capable of going that direction, and people follow me, it is my job to turn around and see what the people need to arrive at the place of my vision. So never are we only ever just doing the one thing. Awareness, context, attitude, effort. Thank you for letting me go on about this. Remember, breathe your own breath. I hope you have a beautiful day. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And I hope you have a beautiful day.